Well, you finally seen me back, but not for a reason that I want to be on YouTube again, making a video. Uh, as we all know, the passing of Percy Pringle, Paul Bearer, has just come to light, and this one really does hit close to home with me, only because my favorite wrestler of all time is The Undertaker. And when I started watching, Paul was still managing The Undertaker. Um, in fact, the first event that I ever watched was Royal Rumble 93. And I used to always think to myself, like, why did The Undertaker, this big entity, this big dark creature, need a guy like Paul Bearer walking around going, "Oh yes, my Undertaker"? Until, like, just watching Paul Bearer just with his creepy voice being able to make this giant, this dead, undead, if you want to call him that, giant, look that much more colorful in the eyes of the fans. I had been watching Paul for a number of years, ever since I started watching wrestling 17 years ago. Well, 18 years ago now. And it always amazed me how whoever you gave Paul to always looked better. When he broke off with The Undertaker and then went off with Mankind, he made Mankind look that much better. When he broke off with him and then went with Vader, he made Vader look that much better. When he broke off with him and went with Kane, he made Kane look that much better. I mean, I can't speak on his behalf when it came to the days of Percy Pringle, because that's going far back into the territory days. But what I can say is that anytime Paul had a job, which was to make a guy look like $1 million just based off of talking for the guy, he did that job. Especially for a guy like Kane, who at the time he wasn't a talker. That's what I've always liked about Paul. And the other thing about Paul too was that he was different. Like, you always had that cocky, arrogant heel manager who would always promote the fact that he had the best wrestlers. He knew the best talent and that he was going to take this person to the next level. Paul wasn't like that. Paul was very dark. He was very mysterious in a way. He was very creepy. He just had that creepy tone to him that nobody else is ever going to match. And I'm at a loss for words right now, only because it's I've known of Paul Bearer for 18 years, watched him a lot from old clips, and last year from the Miami trip that I went to, I saw him at WrestleMania Access, got a picture with him, it's up on Facebook. And it's unfortunate. Now my phone's going off, don't worry about that. It's an unfortunate circumstance that I have to hear of Paul Bearer's passing, because just watching him last year, or seeing him last year at Fan Access, he was one of those guys that joked around with you, because when I went up to him and took a picture with him, right before I took the picture, I went, "Oh yes," doing my perfect Paul Bearer impression, and then he gave me that Paul Bearer look. He was like, "What, are you drunk or something?" And then I said, "No, I don't drink. I'm straight edge." And he laughed along, and we took a second picture. Oh, Paul Bearer was just one of a kind, a one of a kind manager. I can't say anything bad about Paul Bearer. I've loved the man's work for so many years. I have nothing else to say right now, other than that I'm gonna miss Paul Bearer. And I hadn't made a video about a wrestler or manager's death in a while, but I had to make this one because Paul Bearer he actually meant something to me. He managed two of the biggest wrestlers that I'll ever know in Kane and Undertaker. And he managed Mankind, who would later become Mick Foley, and then he managed Vader. That's as far as his WWF run. So, yeah. What are your thoughts on Paul Bearer?